You are entering the bonus stage, a podcast produced in association with oceanofbees.com, with your host Marauder,
Phoenix923,
a podcast for all gamers,
console and PC alike.
Welcome to Bonus Stage.
Hello and welcome to Bonus Stage, a podcast produced in association with oceanofbees.com. As always, I'm your host Marauder, and this week we are joined again by Phoenix923.
Hey, it's great to be back. The guy who filled in for me last week was pretty good, I thought. What did you think?
I think that's a terrible Phoenix923 impression.
Okay, I'll stop.
Nope, it's actually Jab again.
Hello.
Otherwise known as the PC Inspector, otherwise known as One Death Seth, ... And we are also joined again by a person off the site who goes by That Reviewer Guy. So introduce yourself.
I'm Josh. My show is I Want to Be a Reviewer. When I make it. When I don't make it,
You're
not
just
there.
that guy who falls down the stairs now and then.
That's right.
And we've dragged you in from the wilderness for this podcast.
I did indeed come out of my cave.
You were lost.
I did.
Just wandering out in the desert somewhere. Unable
Yes.
to make videos.
The desert wilderness.
But we've dragged you back in.
I'm feeling special.
So, you started the show I Want to Be a Reviewer, which is actually, I think, one of the better ideas I've seen somebody come up with off YouTube. Just an attempt.
I try.
Yeah. Just an attempt to...
He tries once a year or so.
Yes.
Yeah, as I understand it, you don't have a lot of videos up quite yet. But what you do have is gold.
Yes. Gold, I suppose. Yeah, I wanted to make a show that parodied and highlighted the actual act of reviewing, instead of actually reviewing things, which I try to dodge at any given moment.
And you do a good job now and then.
Yes, I try. On occasion.
Well, that's all we can ask of you most of the time.
That's good. You
That's better than most people on the site actually get around to doing.
you get no more out of me.
If you're willing to put in one video a year, then you fit in nicely on Ocean of Bees.
That's good. That's probably a schedule I could keep.
Well, we have had a guy who's been around since the beginning who doesn't have any videos yet, so...
But I'm ahead of the game.
Well, you're ahead of that player.
Well, that puts me in second to last place, which isn't last place.
That's what we should all strive
Feeling
for
good.
in life.
Yes, not be last.
Alright, so as usual, we're going to start this podcast off by checking out what is new on oceanofbees.com. If you guys want to check it out, it's oceanofbees.com. It'll be in the description.
What was that? Oceanofbees.com?
Yes, oceanofbees.com.
Oceanofbees.com?
That's correct, oceanofbees.com.
Ocean
Not to be confused with
bees.com.
not to be confused with pondfulofwasps.net.
We have had problems with that.
Seafulofhornets.org.
Yeah. For some reason, people keep going to the WASP website instead.
Bastards.
Alright, so we're going to check out what's new, and we got a whole host of new videos that have been posted, and luckily we have Jab with us, who pretty much populates the entire front page of the website at the moment.
Almost.
Except for one picture of Sammy Kablam and a star. Good for him. Okay, the first one we got is the People's Choice Line of Game Dialogue. Essentially, of course, the PC Inspector took a vote a while back on what his fans thought was the best line of game dialogue he ever did, at which point he does a video on that one line.
And the people were predictable, of course. They did pick quite a crude line, but I'm not going to spoil it.
Yeah, so check that out. That's hilarious. The next video is the Inspector Visits Chat Roulette, Episode 3. It's pretty self-explanatory. Those are the strangest videos I think I've ever seen.
Those are the strangest people on the internet, I think.
Yeah.
Which
and
is saying
the
a
fact
lot.
The fact that you had to keep pulling out the censor bar was hilarious. And a little bit disturbing. Okay, after that we have Negative Reinforcement Spin Tunes 5 Round 2. You'll have to ask Sammy Kablam what all that's about, because he still hasn't really given anybody a good explanation as to what
I would
those videos
recommend
actually are.
people check it out, even if you're not familiar with the song contest that he's reviewing. There's still some good stuff in there. I'm not even a music fan, and I can appreciate some of the jokes. So I'm sure anyone that's into music will get some of the references there.
Okay, and after that we have Off the Chain episode 5, where Nigel Burns talks about another one of his keychain collection items. And always funny, very short video, so do check it out. After that we have the Inspector Online Modern Warfare 3 episode 4. Essentially, of course, the Inspector going on and hassling people during an online MMO or shooter or what have you.
I'd say hustling's a bit strong.
Well,
Gently
he's trying to make
conversing
polite
with-
conversation.
Yes. And
He's
then people
attempting polite
just
conversation.
get really angry for some reason.
I think it's all unprovoked. That's what I think.
You'd think they were trying to play a game or something.
Yeah, you're just trying to, mingle with the commoners, and that's what you get. You just get a lot of angry people.
Well, that's what you get down in the slums, I'm afraid.
And the latest video is the PC Inspector reviews Ship Simulator Extremes, which that is easily one of the worst games I've ever seen. Very, short and sweet.
I would agree with that.
It's up there.
Yeah, that's pretty.
It is up there.
That's pretty bad. Okay, and as for blogs, we have one new blog, which is my review of the movie Paranorman. So if you guys want to know what I thought about that movie, go ahead and check out my review. And yep, that should be everything that is new on oceanofbees.com.
Oh, apart from right at the top of the page, we have the fundraising announcement.
Oh yeah, we're actually fundraising to keep the website funded for the next 3 years. And, yeah, essentially that's where all the money's going.
Give us your money, effectively.
Nobody here's getting paid for any of this. Yet.
Well, you're not.
No, I'm not. Well, of course the Inspector has to pay himself, because the Inspector is living in such splendor.
I have actually been raking in the money recently, though. That SpongeBob game review on Blip has brought in round about 75 cents. That is not to be sniffed at.
Soon you'll have a whole $1 and you can go buy 100 rides on the pony horse.
Or I could buy some more terrible games.
What pony horse do you ride that costs 1 cent?
Oh, we have them over here in Michigan where I live. A lot of...
You have 1 cent?
Yeah, a lot of grocery stores have 1 cent ponies in them that kids can ride.
Pony's cheap.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Do you have to
Pony is like the lowest of the low. It's probably got like diseases crawling all over it.
From what I understand, all the money from them goes to the children's hospital.
But do they need to go to the hospital after they ride these dirty ponies? Is that how it works?
You'd think that it pays for all the children's injuries sustained.
The only kids that get injured are the ones too large enough to sit on it in the first place.
Well, they should have to pay extra.
1 cent per pound.
Yes. Okay.
Then you'd have to buy scales to install them next to the pony,
Yes.
which
pony
cost
scales.
$1.
Alright, moving forward. We've got a couple topics to talk about, mainly just one. GameSpot had an interesting article up recently talking about how GameStop is considering selling vintage games off their website and possibly in stores down the road. This is interesting to me because they tend to get rid of a lot of the stuff, a lot of the older stuff as soon as the new stuff comes in. So, obviously you can't buy Xbox games there anymore. I think they're just phasing out PS2 games right now. They phased out GameCube games a while back and Game Boy Advance games.
What do they consider vintage, for a start?
I think that they have a certain cutoff date because I know they were selling GameCube games up until maybe a couple months ago, and they stopped selling them. I don't know. I figure it must be that as long as they can make money at it, they're going to keep selling it.
So I'd imagine they're not going to be stocking too much Atari stuff.
Well, how much more vintage can you get other than a Atari 2600?
Do people really look for that stuff these days, though?
I do.
You could sell Fairchild Channel F games and Pong consoles.
If I walked in and saw any games from the TurboGrafx 16, I'd think it about flip. I'd freak out.
Until you saw it didn't have the manual.
A lot of my Turbo... I don't mind with the older games, the cartridge games, because finding the manual with a lot of those is near impossible. Because back then people just threw the boxes out and everything in the box.
Near impossible just sounds like a challenge to me.
Well, I do have a couple of games that have the manuals with them, but yeah, I'm generally not too picky. Now, when it comes to a game like a PlayStation 1 game or a Dreamcast game or something like that has a dedicated case that holds everything in it, then I become pickier about it. Because if you're missing your PS2 game manual, then you're just an idiot.
Yeah, considering they're clipped in. Like, you really have to try to get rid of it. You have to physically pull it out and go, alright, I've read this once, I'm done with it. I feel like discarding it now. I'm done.
I'm just going to go throw it away, excuse me.
Right.
Where would you
You're going to seek out a trash can.
Where would you assume the majority of their vintage games would come from? Which era?
Probably Super Nintendo and up. Maybe Nintendo. It's really hard to say. I know on their PowerAwards.com site they have a couple of like NES games and Super Nintendo games that they're trying to sell. Nothing too exciting, mostly sports games. Yeah. Actually, that's...
Got to get rid of those copies of Madden 95, Just, they don't move.
All the copies of Madden 95 need to go. I know a local vintage game store by my house, Play and Trade, if you guys have that anywhere where you live. But
Negatory.
Yeah. Play and Trade is it's kind of like GameStop, except they deal in all the games rather than just the newer stuff. And they will not take sports games. They just don't take them. I think they used to, and then they just got a huge backstock of it, so they just don't take them anymore.
Is this a move by a large chain to put places like that out of business, then?
Are you saying that GameStop selling vintage games might be putting Play and Trade out of business?
Could it?
I don't think so. GameStop would have to work pretty hard to get the kind of stock that Play and Trade tends to have. Or a store that... There's another store near my house called Vidiots, which is a local store. It's actually in a guy's house. And he has the most amazing collection I've ever seen. And so I think for GameStop to compete with him in terms of the quality of the merchandise, that would take a long time, I think. Because honestly, they got rid of all their vintage stuff, down the road. So in order to get that all back would take a long time, I think.
Well, that's what they said. They said they're going to work on building up a backstock first before they start offering. This way they try to avoid, whatever shortages they might run into.
Yeah. But,
I mean,
there's only... The problem is, like, with new games now, you can get... if you sell out of your 10,000 copies of Madden, you can just call EA and they'll make more copies. Having a backstock of retro games isn't as easy to do, given the fact that nobody's producing those anymore. Unless you count reproduction copies, then I suppose. So I think it would be more difficult for them to compete at that level. Although I'd be all for it, because I buy games for any system I can get a hold of. I don't care how old it is or whatever. I mean, if a game I want to play is on the NES, then I'm going to go find it.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing for me is, like, I'm pretty discriminating with my vintage games. Like, I don't want to go out and buy crap. And I mean, I think most people that do collect older games think similarly. We want to pay a good price, but we don't want to overpay at the same time for something that we're going to find somewhere else for cheaper.
Oh yeah, especially now,
I mean,
because the price of vintage games has shot through the roof.
Will they be relying on trade-ins for the stock of vintage games?
They very well could be. I mean, if they open that up as an option, the parents who had a kid who had an NES, that's probably just sitting in a cardboard box in their basement, might drag it in there and get some money for it.
That seems like a much more efficient way.
Well, that's how they get the majority of their
games.
stock, that they have now.
Right.
Is just people trading it in.
Yeah.
Although,
it's like
I don't know if most of the locations would even be able to handle that kind of stock. Because if you think about it, I mean, I know they're going to try it online first, but let's say they do roll it out to their stores. There are some GameStops around me that are really small. There's one in the mall that I know of that literally is, just wide enough aisles to shimmy down them. So the more...
And the average gamer, as you know, especially the average vintage gamer, is not a slim gentleman.
Yeah. And it's in the mall, so it's always crowded. It's always packed. It's right across from the food court. So it's a very busy area.
And greasy.
It can be.
Well, see, what I do is I just go over to the food court and I get some pats of butter, and I'll just grease myself up before I go in GameStop, and this way I can just slide through the aisles. It's very efficient.
Mommy, I can't grip this game. It's too slippery.
Just put it down, dear. The man with the butter touched it.
With his armpits.
Yeah, that's how I grip things.
I think it would be a good idea if they did end up having retro games, because that's, again, like I said, the majority of what I buy. Simply because it's more appealing to walk into a store with $20 and walk out with 4 games, rather than...
And while you're in there, you might spot a new release that you hadn't thought of, that you like the look of.
Oh yeah, I mean...
So if they can draw more people in, that's got to be good for business.
Sure. I mean, one reason I don't go to GameStop as frequently is because they don't have the retro games. I'd rather go to Play and Trade and see if I can't find a cheap $5 Genesis game to buy. And yeah, while I'm there, I might pick up a DS game or something.
Do they stock PC games?
GameStop?
Yes.
Yeah, they do.
Will they stock vintage PC games?
I don't think that they'll be taking
I think
those.
they're going to focus more towards cartridges and older disc-based systems, I would imagine.
Because there was a period of PC games. Like, if you're going to get a used PC game, there's the golden era that you can get them from. After that, everything has a CD key or online activation or something.
Right.
So they're never going to be useful ever again. But if you go back a few years before that, you can find some pretty good stuff.
Yeah, I think being a PC gamer is, it has its upsides, what with Steam being so cheap, but it also has its downsides in the fact that you can't just go out and buy a used PC game. There's
not going to be a used PC market unless Steam introduce some kind of trade-back program.
Yeah, and they're never going to do that.
No, because how would you trade back files? I mean, I guess they could revoke your rights.
Yeah, they take away your license for a
to a
fraction
game.
of the price that you paid for it.
Yeah, I talked about this on a previous podcast, but yeah, if they opened up some sort of digital marketplace where if you had an extra copy of something or a game you didn't want, you could throw it on the marketplace and they would say, all right, we'll give you $2 for that in Steam credit. And then you're like, okay, that's fine. At which point they throw it up on their marketplace for like $4 and get, $2 more on it. But I mean, at least then you'd get something out of it.
Right.
It's just weird having a used market, though, for something that's not a physical thing. Just the rights to something.
That's one thing that I'm concerned about with the digital digital era coming is the fact that you don't own anything anymore. Like that, it would essentially kill your rights of ownership to something.
You don't even own your own mind.
Yeah, I mean, with a physical
Well,
with a physical copy, you know, of any like Wii game or Xbox game or whatever, you're holding it in your hand. You have this disc; it's yours. But the fact that PC games are mostly digital now, or at least, you know, the majority of them are. I don't know. I personally don't count my Steam library when I count the number of games that I own. I don't count it.
On the other side of it, if your house gets robbed tomorrow, somebody steals your entire collection, the only thing they're not touching is your Steam collection.
True. Yeah, there is that to it, where like digitally they're not, you know, if something happens to your house or something happens to you, your games are safe.
And they even have ways of getting your account back if someone hacks it. So it's very rare that you'll lose anything on Steam.
I just don't think that other companies really have the image that Steam, I think, has. You know, like EA's got Origin, but I don't use Origin because I don't really care for EA and I don't trust them.
I just don't want another platform to have to deal with on top of Steam.
Right.
It always gets on my nerves when I load up a game in Steam, and then the game itself wants me to log into Games for Windows Live when I'm already in the game through Steam.
Oh yeah, that's frustrating. And now Ubisoft announced that they're creating their own digital platform
Oh, good.
called, I think they call it Uplay.
Not UB
Original.
Play. UB Play now.
You be giving money here, please. Now.
I was honestly thinking they would do that earlier than they did because they were the only company that I can think of besides Blizzard that has an always online DRM. And I was like, well, if you're just going to do that to Driver San Francisco or Assassin's Creed, then why not just create your own platform to have to be logged into like Steam? And sure enough, they ended up doing it.
Wouldn't Will be a terrible place if every single game that you owned, you had to be online to play it?
Oh yeah, the whole always online thing is ludicrous if you think about it, because what was the most recent one? I guess Diablo 3 would be the most recent example. Is in order to play Diablo 3, you have to be online and you have to be logged into their servers. Well, that's starting to backfire on them, from what I understand. People are dropping the game left and right, mainly because there are so many server outages and so many problems with the game that people can't play when they want to. I mean, video games, at least for me, is mostly a leisure activity. I play it when I have time. I don't have, when you sit down and you have a half hour before you have to go do something and you want to get in a quick level or a quick, half hour of gameplay, you don't want to have to sit there and fiddle with an online connection for 20 minutes trying to get into a server so you can play your single player game. It's too much of a hassle. And that's one thing that I think consoles had over the PC for a long time, is the fact that you could just pop a cartridge in or pop a CD in and play the game. And there were no load screens, essentially.
There's something charming about the old consoles that had no way of connecting up to the internet. It was just completely internal. It was just you, console, and the TV, and nobody can interfere with that.
I'm still to this day the kind of person that when I sit down to play a game, I shut my computer off, I put my phone away, and I sit and I will play my game.
Turn on some low romantic music,
Light a candle.
a couple of glasses of wine,
Mm-hmm.
pour one straight into the console,
Turn down the dimmer switch for the overhead lighting.
put out the fire you just caused.
Mm-hmm. Bust out your Kenny G records.
The good
I know
old
how it
days.
is.
There's just something. There's
Dwell
just
on that for a
something.
minute.
Just, I don't know.
Something about Kenny G. We know. It's okay.
There's something magical about older game systems and cartridges. I mean, say what you want about the Nintendo 64 versus the PlayStation. I bet you anything people will have a better view of the N64 a couple of years down the road because it used cartridges. I mean, those games are still going to work.
They're not going to get scratched up to all hell.
Unless you took sandpaper to the contacts. I know some people that did that to their games. This one guy,
I've seen some.
This one kid had a Game Boy Advance game he wanted to clean, quote unquote, and he took a high grit sandpaper to it and completely ate through the contacts.
Smooth move.
I have the official N64 cleaning kit. Gotta have one of those.
Yep, gotta have one of those. I've got a Sega Genesis cleaning kit, which is actually a quite ingenious design. It looks like a Genesis cartridge, except the contacts are like a spongy material.
Yeah, that's basically the same as the N64 one. It's almost like a foam, piece of cardboard that goes in and out.
Yeah, and then you put this little. It's got like a little cleaning cartridge you put in the face of the cartridge, and then just pull it in and out of the system repeatedly to clean it. But of course, everybody remembers the ones from the NES era because they were huge.
Right.
And they had those orange handles.
Yeah.
I don't think they ever actually worked.
No.
Because those the 72-pin connector was faulty to begin with.
Is there any kind of future for cartridge gaming for big consoles, not just handhelds?
I heard a rumor that the next Xbox was going to run on cartridges. And I wouldn't be surprised if they did, because you can fit quite a bit on an SD card now. I think with SDXC, I think the max capacity on that's like 2 terabytes.
Yeah, you can get pretty big ones now. I mean, it cracked me up that I bought a 32 gig for my phone, and I'm just thinking back about how when I was in college the first year, I bought a 60 gig hard drive for my computer, and that blew everyone's mind. They're like, 60 gigs? You'll never fill 60 gigs? That's crazy! And I'm like, right, what am I going to do with all these gigs? And now it's like, well, I make a project in iMovie and it's 120 gigs. So, it's crazy.
The way I look at it, CDs are being made obsolete in various other forms of entertainment and storage. So, why not games?
Well, actually, having a cartridge slot on the next PlayStation or the next Xbox actually makes a lot of sense. Because on one hand, it could keep production costs down, because if your game only fills 2 gigabytes, then you only have to make it a 2 gig card. Like with PS3 games, a Blu-ray costs what a Blu-ray costs. And what do they hold, like 50 gigabytes or something now?
Yeah, it's something like that. It's around 50, I think.
But if your game's only 20 gigabytes or 10 gigabytes, then you just got a bunch of wasted space you don't need. But you're paying for that full 50 gigs you're not using. Also, when the cartridge or the system itself wouldn't have any moving parts. I mean, the number one thing that dies on a CD-based system is either the motor or the laser. And with a SD card slot or some kind of, cartridge slot on it, there wouldn't be any moving parts.
It'd just be the good old-fashioned ways of destroying consoles, like insects getting in it.
Right, yeah.
Or pulling on the controller that's not wireless and just dragging the whole console off the shelf onto the floor.
It's true.
That was one thing I thought Microsoft had as a pretty smart idea. Was when the first Xbox came out, they had those breakaway cables. So if you tripped over it, it would just pull the cable out, and it wouldn't pull the system off the shelf.
Those were handy. I always lost them, though.
It may still get you killed in the odd boss fight when somebody walks past and takes the controller out, but at least you're not going to lose the console.
Yeah. I actually really, really liked the original Xbox. I think that was probably my favorite system of the time.
The controllers were a bit on the large side, though, weren't they? the original controllers.
The original Duke controller was very large, but I have big hands, so I didn't mind it too much. Although the Controller S was a far better design. The funny thing was, if you looked at the Japanese controller for the Xbox at the exact same time, it looked like the Controller S. I mean, slightly different, but it was a much smaller controller.
Well, Japanese people are tiny.
Well, I know, but you had this smaller controller that was perfect, and they ended up completely redesigning a new controller for the United States.
For the fat market, I think they call it.
Yeah, I think they called it the Duke, or the Xbox Fat controller. The thing that I actually really liked it for shooters because the right joystick had a rounded top on it. So for shooters, it was very quick and responsive. But for everything else, I didn't like it too much. For some reason, the D-pad had this like recessed center to it. It wasn't like a regular plus pad. It was like a cup.
Yeah, it was kind of concave.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the middle of the controller was just a huge X logo.
Yeah, that giant unused space with no buttons.
I assumed that was a button. Because when I saw it, I assumed that was a button that did something. And they're like, nope, it's just a logo under a piece of plastic.
But what could you press it with other than maybe your nose?
Yeah, I suppose.
Would have been fun, though.
Well, I mean, they're doing that now with the 360 and PS3. They have little home buttons.
A nose button?
Yeah, you just push it and the avatar's nose changes, you know.
Controller that you can use with your face. That's the future.
Facial recognition
I look
software.
forward to that future.
Face expression fighter.
Reality Fighter version 2.0.
Angry followed by sad is a combo.
Frown,
you just roll
smile,
your-
smile, wink.
You roll your eyes to pull off a Shoryuken.
Left eyebrow up, down. Right cheek out.
Mm-hmm.
Finishing move.
Oh, man. But yeah, so where did we
We can
start this
dream.
conversation? GameStop selling old games?
That was a while ago, I don't remember.
That was a long time ago.
But yeah, I think cartridges, you know, at the time of the N64, they had their limitations, but I preferred them over the PlayStation. Also, I thought the N64 looked better a lot of the time.
Yeah, it did look a lot better most of the time. I mean, the big thing about the PlayStation was it did have that full motion, and the sound was a lot better, obviously.
Oh yeah, no, the music was much better. I mean, if you want a side-by-side comparison, get Tony Hawk Pro Skater for PlayStation, get it for N64. There's no doubt the PlayStation version is better. The 64 version looks better, but the sound's weird. And the songs are like half there.
Right.
Do people like PlayStation controllers? Because I always found them incredibly painful to use.
No, I never liked them.
I always preferred either the N64 or the Xbox. The newer Xbox controllers, not the giant one.
Yeah. I always thought the Dreamcast controller was a good design.
I thought Nintendo took a backward step when they went from the N64 to the GameCube controller.
No, see, I liked the GameCube controller.
It wasn't bad, but
The C-stick needed to be a
the
better
C-stick
grip on
was terrible.
it. Yeah.
I understand what they were trying to do over the C arrows on the N64, but yeah.
Why have a stick if it's not going to be in any way grippable or anything?
I'm actually right now playing Time Splitters Future Perfect on the GameCube. And I have a adapter that lets me use a PS2 controller. But just for fun, I tried using the Wavebird controller. And I hate that C-stick with a passion. But that's okay, I have a way around it.
Hey, here's what I loved about N64 controllers. Those giant rumble packs that weighed twice as much as a controller itself.
Yeah.
Especially if they had a built-in memory card.
Yeah. It had a memory card for a cartridge-based system. I didn't mind the memory cards. What I hated was there was no real way to manage the data on them. Like, if you had to delete something, you had to find a game that had a decent manager on it.
There was always some really obscure but easily done way of deleting all the data as well. Like, if you hold down the button for slightly too long, it just wipes everything off it. That's what I always found.
I grew up poor. I had the Tremor pack, not the Rumble pack.
Yeah, I had the
generic
Tremor pack.
The Nyko ripoff.
It was actually It was actually Performance brand, I think.
Forgive me.
Yes.
Forgive me. Sorry.
Get it right, damn it.
I'm gonna go coward.
The Performance brand Tremor does not sound like a game accessory.
Does not.
Sounds like that thing that came with the. Oh, what the heck was that game? The Res game on PS2. That came with the vibrator.
I've never heard of that.
Yeah,
No, we should.
If you've ever played Res, which is like a musical shooting game, in the Japanese market, they actually released it with basically a vibrator. They called it They had some other name for it, but essentially a vibrator. And
well, as soon as you said the Japanese market, all the pieces fell into place. It makes sense now.
Yeah. But that was always something I found surprising. They released it over here on the PlayStation 2 as well, but did not include the additional accessory.
Imagine going to the midnight release for that and then finding out it wasn't included.
Getting all excited. And it wasn't even there. That'd be sad.
And then you run back, try and return it, and then you realise they've closed for the night.
That was
so
one thing.
sad.
That was one reason I really liked the Dreamcast, because when I first picked up a Dreamcast, I found an ISO online of Res. And apparently it had been released in Japan and never brought over here because the Dreamcast was supported for a couple of years more in Japan than it was over here. And so I copied it off and it plays fine, and I love Res.
Does it play fine on all your Dreamcasts?
Yes, all 6 of them. Yeah. You're just going to constantly make fun of how many Dreamcast systems I own, aren't you?
Yep.
Are they at least different color variations?
No, they're all the gray one.
They're all the gray
They're all
ones?
the whitish gray ones.
He's getting enough so he can build a house out of them.
Have an altar
It just so
Dreamcast.
happens that when I go to garage sales, that's the majority of what I find are old Dreamcast systems. Or,
You know you don't have to buy them all.
well, for the price, it's actually a really good deal. Even if I sold it back, I'd make my money back on them.
But you're not going to sell them back.
No, I'm not. I don't plan on it. I sold one to a guy in a class I was in, because he offered me $50 for it. And seeing as how I only spent $20 on it.
Then you broke out into a cold sweat and begged for it back and gave him like $300 for it.
No, then I found another one.
In his backpack.
No, actually, my grandma actually found one in her neighbor's garbage.
What was she doing in her neighbor's garbage?
From what she said, she went down to get the mail, and at the same time, her neighbor across the street was carrying it down and threw it in the garbage. She asked if she could have it, and they gave it to her. So she gave it to me, and it works fine. Nothing wrong with it. The only problem was the audio-video cable had been cut in half somehow.
Fun.
Yeah.
Due to anger.
Yeah. But, yeah, no, technically it works great. I mean, it loads all the games and everything works, so. I thought that was
People do
cool.
strange things when they're angry to their consoles.
What?
I had a buddy take a sword to a 360. He
Had
shoved
it
a
red
samurai
ringed?
sword. Huh?
Had it red ringed?
No, he was playing Rockstar table tennis. And he was up in the last match, like 10-0 in a game to 13. And the little Asian dude came all the way back and beat him, and he absolutely lost it. He broke the controller. He took a sword to the 360, and I think that was a little much. I think that was a little much. He's like, no, no, you don't let the game get away like that. I'm like, well, now you have nothing.
I unlocked the cheat mode on a game by getting angry at it once. Sonic 3D on the Mega Drive. I'd got incredibly angry with one of the levels, and I just started angrily jiggling the cartridge about, and then suddenly the music changed, screen went black, and up came the cheat menu. Yeah, that was my reaction as well.
You may be the only one to ever access the cheat menu on Sonic 3D.
I'm sure there's a legitimate way to do it.
Yeah, you have to hold down a button when you turn the game on or something.
No idea why that would work, though. Why would they put that in intentionally, that you have to attempt to destroy their product to access hidden
I'm
features?
pretty sure.
Well, at that point, but to say, in that point in Sega's life cycle, they were probably just trying you to get it destroyed on purpose.
So you could buy another one.
Maybe. I wonder if more games have done that. Just start trying to
I
destroy
know with
your
the
entire game
N60,
collection.
I know with the N64, if you tilt the cartridge in a lot of games, weird stuff happens. But the best thing I ever saw for the destruction of a console was my neighbor. This was probably back in, I don't know, when did Final Fantasy VII come out? Whenever that was, 96 or something, 97.
I want to say around there.
I was outside my house doing stuff in my front yard, and all of a sudden, across the street, this PlayStation 1 just comes flying out of the top window of the house.
Did you dive and catch it?
No, I was way across the street.
No!
So I walk over there just out of curiosity, and my neighbor's in his room screaming. And it turns out that apparently he had poured, I don't know, 40 plus hours into that game at that point, before Eris died. This was before, obviously, everybody knew this would happen.
Spoilers!
Oh, yeah. Spoilers. If you haven't played Final Fantasy VII,
Then you don't need
kill
to.
yourself. So the, yeah, apparently he had leveled her up ridiculously high, and she dies. And he was angry. I thought that was hilarious. Myself, personally, I've never gotten very angry at a game, although I have gone crazy on a console before, given the fact that I was playing Super Metroid way back when that came out, and there's a part in that game where you have to, wall jump up this wall where these koala bears or something are showing you how to do it. And for one reason or another, I was playing it for 3 days straight, and I could not get up the wall. And so, eventually I just lost it, and just started, throwing the controller at the system. Well, because the way that the wall jump in that game works, it's completely broken. Like in a Ninja Gaiden style game or something, you usually just get up against the wall, push the opposite direction in the jump button, and you'll repel or rebound off the wall. Well, in Super Metroid, it works completely differently, wherein when you jump at a wall, you have to be spinning. You have to be doing a spin jump, and then you have to push the opposite direction, and then the jump button and the opposite direction again. So rather than going left jump, left jump, it's left jump, right jump, left jump. Which for me at the time, I think I was I don't know, probably 10, 11 years old. That was just, I couldn't figure that out. And it pissed me off. Now I know how to do it, obviously, but for years that game sat in my Super Nintendo pile, and I never touched it. But now it's one of my favorite games, now that I got past that part. But at the time, that just pissed me off. Well, anyway, I guess we'll move on to games we've been playing. So, anybody want to start this off? I guess John Defeo, you can start it off if you'd like.
Yes, John
Yes,
Defeo.
Josh Defeo.
Well...
I'm going to end up always calling you John for the rest of your life.
We all are.
That's alright. Who cares who I am? Well, let's see.
If you made more videos, maybe people would remember you.
Cute. No, let's see. I purchased Oni Chanbara Bikini Samurai Slayers for 360 because I heard how absolutely abysmal it is.
It is.
Did you have to say
absolutely
bikini?
abysmal.
Did I what?
Did you have to say bikini? That just brought back some horrible memories of
Well,
watching videos.
it is the game I touched upon.
Onichibara
In
Bikini Samurai Squad. I have it
Yes.
as well.
It's absolutely abysmal.
It's terrible.
It's not sexy. Like it's the opposite of sexy. It's awkward and unsexy.
Like the Ocean of Bees front page.
Pretty much.
It's not nonsensical. It makes sense.
Yeah, there's people that fight zombies in bikinis. I mean, essentially it should work, but it doesn't. Because control-wise and gameplay-wise, it's abysmal. It's just terrible.
Did you ever end up getting past the hospital level in that? I think it's like level 3.
Yes, I think I did. I got past the hospital, and then I was in the parking garage after that. But there's this red thing you fight in the parking garage, and I have no idea how to beat it. Because, I mean, you only have so many attacks.
Yeah, you have like a
You either
light
swing
and a
it-
heavy, and then that's about it.
Yeah, you have your light and your heavy, and you have your whatever the hell it is mode when you get too hurt.
Yeah, the demon mode or whatever.
Yeah, the demon mode, and that didn't do anything except for get me killed. So I shut it off, and I'm like, well, you certainly did get my $4 GameStop, and that was that.
I got it for free from Blockbuster because they couldn't sell it, so I was like, I'll take it, free game.
That's the right price to pay for that.
Yeah, it certainly is not good. I can
No.
attest to that.
So have you been playing that exclusively?
No, I also have been playing. I bought The Amazing Spider-Man for 360, which I did beat, and that was
the
really
one
good.
based on the movie?
It's tied into the movie. It's
Okay, but it is the one that came out during the movie.
it's the movie tie-in game, yes,
Okay.
but it isn't actually directly. It isn't the typical tie-in game where it actually follows the movie story and tries to follow along. It actually acts as a sequel to the movie, which is interesting.
Okay.
But I'm sure it's not going to be the actual second movie. I'm sure it's more like an in-betweener.
Sure.
Just, this is what could have happened after the movie was over. Blah, blah, blah.
And then the second movie's going to come out and completely contradict everything in the game.
Yeah, well, sounds about right.
But how was
And
that?
then,
anyway?
the game was really good. I mean, I liked it a lot. I generally don't go out and buy new games at retail price because usually it seems like a waste of money because it seems like usually you're like, well, that's 8 hours and that's $60. That doesn't seem worth it.
Or the fact
so,
that like 2 weeks later it'll drop to like $40 or $30.
Right.
Yeah.
But now, I went out and I bought it and I enjoyed it and I played it all the way through, which is an accomplishment for me because I'm notorious for not finishing things I start.
You don't say.
Exactly.
Haven't
But
noticed.
I enjoyed it a great deal. I mean, my favorite Spider-Man game was the original Spider-Man for PlayStation 1. I like that one a lot. I think.
Oh yeah, I think that one was on 64 as well, and Dreamcast.
Yeah.
If I remember.
Mm-hmm. That one's definitely my favorite, besides this one.
Yeah. I really liked the Spider-Man game they had for the GameCube that was based on the first Spider-Man movie. Because they added in like all these new villains and such that weren't in the movie, like the Shocker and the Vulture.
Right.
And I don't know, it was a fun little diversion. I got it for my birthday. It was pretty good.
Did anyone play Spider-Man on the Master System?
Yeah, I actually have, yes.
The one where you have to take the pictures.
Oh, you mean the one on the Mega Drive?
Oh, is that what it was?
Yeah, there was a Master System version that was re-released on the Game Gear, which I have played, and I think it was on NES as well, called like Spider-Man and the Sinister Six or something like that.
Well, the one I played, you have to take pictures, and I could never get past the second level because I would always fall into the sewer. Every time.
Yeah, I have that game. I should actually review that.
You should. That would bring back some painful memories for me.
Yeah, my other favorite Spider-Man game, which I have never beaten to this day because it's so freaking long, is Spider-Man and Venom in Maximum Carnage for Genesis and Genesis and Super Nintendo. That game is way too long.
I actually did beat that when I was a kid.
Did you beat it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's.
I ended
never
up
beaten
cheating,
it.
sort of, though, because what I did was I ended up playing as Spider-Man throughout as much of the game as I could, and then right before he died, I plugged in the second player controller and hit start. Started up with Venom.
Yeah.
So I get all new lives and kept going. But yeah, I did eventually beat it.
I know the game has about 26 levels, and I can get like 16 in. I can get to the park, but that's about it. And by then, I've used up all of my superhero icons, and I'm just going it alone. It's just a very hard game.
Yeah, that game is not easy. You try to play it now, and it feels really floaty, and the collision detection is suspect at best.
Yeah, it's not easy.
It's not as refined as like a Streets of Rage game or a Final Fight.
Right.
Anyway, anything else you've been playing?
I've been playing Sleeping Dogs for 360, which is pretty good so far. I mean, generally I don't go for these like Grand Theft Auto cash in between games such as these, but it's pretty good so far. I mean, they're trying to do something original with the whole Hong Kong setting and being an undercover cop, and it's done by Square Enix, and it's pretty good so far.
Is that the one where you can trap people's heads in car doors?
Yeah, it's got it's heavy on environmental kills.
Did you ever play any of the other games in the series before that one?
True Crime?
Yeah, did you play the True Crime games?
Yeah, I have True Crime Streets of LA for GameCube, which I didn't mind too much. I thought the thing I liked about it the best was the driving. I thought the driving was really good in that game, and the shooting out the car, which at the time was, a new thing.
Yeah.
That you could shoot out the car window and blow out their tires and stop them. So.
Hey, come on. I've been shooting out of car windows since the Master System.
Yeah, it's called Spy Hunter. You just shoot forward out of the car windows. No, I really liked those games. At least the first one I played on GameCube. I probably rented it like 6 times.
Right.
It was fun. I really liked it. I have Grand Theft Auto on the Xbox as well, but I don't care for those very much because I thought that True Crime did the control scheme a lot better. The fact that when you were out of the car, you were, able to... It was more like a third-person shooter. Or it had more refined controls. And I liked the story. So overall, I thought it was a better game than Grand Theft Auto in a lot of ways.
Have you tried any Grand Theft Auto games on the PC?
Yes, actually, I did play Grand Theft Auto 3 on the PC.
Have you tried piloting a helicopter on Grand Theft Auto on the PC?
Yes, I have.
That is the only thing that's impossible. Everything else seems to transfer fine. Cannot pilot a helicopter.
No,
Talking
I
about
will agree you
18,000
cannot do that. It's like trying to pilot a helicopter in, like, Battlefield or something. It doesn't quite
I was
work.
looking online for ways to skip the helicopter sequence in Grand Theft Auto 4, and I could not find one, so I just had to persist with it. Spent like 2 weeks trying to do that. And I hadn't even mastered it by the end, it was just luck.
What was really sad about those games was I bought them on Xbox, and I really liked the fact on the original Xbox that you could put your music on the system and then play it in the game, if the game supported it. And
you can do that on the PC.
Yeah, I know. And the in the Xbox version, though, like, you had to be in a car and have it tuned to a particular station for it to access the playlists. So, literally, I got bored of that game probably, a week into playing it. But I kept playing it because I would just drive around listening to my music. And just, like, running over people.
That's an underused feature nowadays, if you think about it. Custom
Running people over?
soundtracks.
Oh,
Well, I know the
custom
360.
soundtracks.
I know the 360 when it first came out. That was a huge selling point. Was the fact that it had custom soundtracks in every game.
Yeah.
And now
Now
they don't let you do it.
No, it's never touched on anymore.
Yeah, I really, really like it. Because a lot of games just have really generic soundtracks to them.
Right.
And, some have really good soundtracks. Like, I think Uncharted has a really nice soundtrack to it. But, Gears of War and stuff like that, they just all seem to have just really generic soundtracks, and I'd rather be listening
Seems like
to something
indie
else.
games get all the best soundtracks these days.
Yeah, indie games have really good soundtracks in them. I'll agree.
Old school style.
I mean, I don't think a custom soundtrack would make Call of Duty any more less generic, but it would definitely be a bit better.
I remember that was one reason I bought NFL 2K5 on the Xbox, was because you could actually set certain songs on your system to play during parts of the game. So, like when you're entering the stadium, or when you successfully do a touchdown with a particular player. And I just really liked the fact that it would just boot up like a Disturbed track when we're wandering into the stadium. I thought it was hilarious.
I like doing that for creating intros for wrestlers on PlayStation for WWE Raw versus SmackDown. That was always fun.
Wrestling games have been horrible since No Mercy on the N64.
And worst of all, Play and Trade won't take them because they're sports games. So you can't even get rid of them.
My favorite wrestling game was WCW NWO Revenge on N64.
All the N64 wrestling games were good.
That was definitely my favorite.
So you've been playing anything else?
That is about it. The only one I have that I haven't played yet is GoldenEye 007 Reloaded for 360. I have it, but I haven't played it. I played the demo, and then it was pretty good. And I went to my buddy's house, and he's like, "Here, play this." And I'm like, "All right." You don't gotta force it down my throat. So
I bought that on the Wii when it first came out because it came with that golden controller.
right.
And I really, really liked that game a lot.
I have that one as well. Apparently, this is actually a different game because this is the one that's only developed for 360 and I think PlayStation 3. It's different than the GoldenEye that came out.
From what
Wii.
from what they said, it's basically just an update or an upconverted HD version of it, and they probably improved a couple of things and probably changed some things around. But overall, I think it's essentially the same game, which isn't a bad thing because that game's actually a lot of fun. I loved the. I really liked the fact that Daniel Craig's in the game. I just thought he fit. I don't know. I really liked it. It was different. It wasn't. It made it seem like it wasn't just trying to remake GoldenEye. That it was trying to do its own thing.
You just wanted to see him take his shirt off.
You're in first person though. You never get to see it if he does.
Now he's admitting to it.
And we have it recorded.
Well, and the part where he's where the intro to the game starts. That's actually like a James Bond style movie intro. Right after he jumps off the dam.
Yeah.
I thought that was really, really well done. But no, I haven't played the 360 version, but hopefully it's as good, if not better, than the Wii version.
Right.
Anyway, Jab, you been playing anything recently?
Other than Ship Simulator?
Other than Ship Simulator Extreme?
Yes, mostly been playing Borderlands with Cheapy and Vince of Space. So that may become a video series on the site, if it's funny enough.
I want in if you end up doing that, because I love that game.
Yeah, that is a good one. It should be good for a series as well. Lots of action going on, especially with my horrendous driving skills. And I am always the first into the driving seat as well.
Yep.
So that should be fun. Let's see what else I've been playing. I played a little bit on Dawn of War 2 Retribution, which I'm getting through very, very slowly. I do like that game though. Not so sure about this particular expansion's campaign, because they've changed the system a bit. In the previous ones, you get experience for all your units and then put upgrades on them. But in this one, you only upgrade a character and then you can switch them out for a unit in each mission or something. It's strange, it doesn't seem quite as exciting to me. It's still fun. And I think you can play as all the other factions in the campaign as well, which you couldn't previously. So I'm looking forward to that. And that's everything I've been playing.
Oh, so not too much?
Not too much, I've been doing lots of other stuff lately.
Alright. Let's see, what have I been playing? Let me look around here. Oh, I was playing Uncharted Drake's Fortune on PS3 recently, which is a game I'm trying to finish because I want to go out and get the second game. Really enjoying that one. It's probably one of the best games I've played in this console generation. You know, hands down, I think. There was a moment when I was stuck, I think, under like a castle in the basement, and I couldn't figure out how exactly the game wanted me to progress. Because what the game will do is if you're wandering around for too long, it will just show you where you need to go. But in this case, it didn't show me how to get to where I needed to go. So I still ended up wandering around for a half hour. Like, there's this ledge that you have to get up to, but you can't jump to it. And so I ended up wandering around the basement for a really long time until I realized there's this one stone that you have to climb on top of first to grab onto a ledge to shimmy over to where you need to be. But the way it was positioned and set up and the way the camera was, I never actually saw it. Until finally I just went online and found a walkthrough. Because I was like, I'm not wasting any more of my time.
Wandering around in a basement for hours sounds like a pretty fun experience.
Yes, it is.
I've been there, let me tell you.
Quite riveting.
Let's see. I was playing The Last Story on the Wii. Really, really enjoying that game.
That is one I did want to pick up.
Yeah, I recommend it. It's RPG-ish, but it's not too heavy on the RPG side of things, which is good for me because I'm not that big of an RPG fan. I mainly bought it because Xseed said they were only publishing enough to cover pre-order. So I assumed it was going to be extraordinarily rare to find a copy anyway. And it's got a really good battle system. You can either do an auto battle system where your character will automatically attack stuff, or a manual one where you tell him what to attack, and actually like push the button and play it more like a Devil May Cry-esque kind of game. And I prefer that mode. I prefer being able to walk over with my giant sword and going to town on a guy. This feels more satisfying. Highly recommend that, especially if you can get it in the collector's box with the CD and the art book. I think it's a really nice collection they got there.
You don't just want it in the nice plastic sleeve, then?
Yeah, right. Well, no, the frickin' I don't know if I told you this, what Amazon did to my copy. So, I've never pre-ordered anything off Amazon game-wise. I usually do it off GameStop. But with this one, I thought I'd give them a shot to see how it came out. So, I pre-ordered it back in March, and when it came to my house, like midway through August, they had mailed it in a bubble mailer. So, the box itself is supposed to look like a book, and it's all made of, like, not cardboard, but like pressboard. And it ended up getting completely destroyed in shipping. And so I called him up and I told him I'd like another copy if I could that wasn't in such bad shape. And I told him don't mail it in a bubble mailer. So very nicely, of course, they ship out a second copy, which of course they shipped in a bubble mailer, and actually ended up being in far worse shape than the one that I previously had. So at that point, I just returned the more damaged of the two copies, and they offered me a $20 refund, which I took. So really, the game only cost me $30, I guess. I don't know. They used to have those nice Amazon boxes that they'd mail everything in, but they keep shipping stuff in bubble mailers. I don't understand it. Especially when I specifically said, do not ship in bubble mailer. Somehow.
You know what special collector's edition thing game I really didn't like? Well, I liked the game. It was The Witcher 2. But the one feature I was looking forward to out of the box was the whole documentary. Like the making of it. But it's all in Polish or something, with subtitles. So you have to sit there and read while these guys just sit there talking to you for hours.
It's not even... It's just like them sitting in a room.
Yes,
Oh.
with very little actual of the game footage. I'd like to be able to just turn it on and listen while doing other things, not staring intently at these.
And there's no, like, English voiceover or anything?
Nope.
Oh, that would suck.
That should be a must on these things.
No, I agree.
Right. You think they'd localize it a bit?
But no.
Alright, well, the other things I've been playing, let's see. Binary Domain on Xbox. That's probably the most underrated game of the year, in my opinion. And,
Never heard of it. What is it?
Binary Domain is a third-person Gears of War-esque shooter, I guess. Where, essentially, it's done by the same guy who does the Yakuza series for Sega. And, it's really, really good. It, like I said, it plays a lot like Gears of War, except for the fact that your squad mates actually have personality and characters that you end up liking. So, it's a futuristic story where basically the United States and Japan are at each other's throats because they're trying to design more and more advanced robots, and I don't know the story quite well enough yet, but basically one guy wandered into a robot production store or whatever in Japan, and it turned out he was a robot, but he didn't know he was a robot, he thought he was a human, and so the United States ended up sending in to Japan what's called a Rust crew, which is like a SWAT team, I guess, to kind of deal with the situation and figure out what the hell's going on. And that's what you play as. You play as the leader of that squad. And there's like a Chinese girl named Faye. There's 2 British people in it. And there's a big black guy named Bo, I think. And he's really fun to play as. Or play with, rather. But along the way you can upgrade your weapons, upgrade your equipment, and get these kind of like nano machines that you can equip to yourself, kind of like, I want to say it's like materia from Final Fantasy, sort of, kind of, to upgrade your abilities, like the amount of ammo you can carry or the number of health packs you can carry, that kind of thing. And because it's in the future, everything's really colorful. Like, there's a lot of outside scenes, and it's all very 2001 Space Odyssey, so everything's really white and shiny. Unless you go under the city into the sewers or into the lower rungs of the city, then it gets really grimy and gritty. It's a really interesting story, and the set pieces are nice. The action sequences are really, really well done. And I think it has one of the best robots in gaming history by the name of Kane, who's a robot with the French resistance, who actually speaks French. And he's very, very polite, but he's also sarcastic. And it's hilarious. But no, if you guys like shooters at all, try it. It's really fun. Also, they have this thing called a trust system, where basically you can, based on how you interact with your various squad mates, they will either like you more or dislike you or distrust you. And they're more apt, let's say if they don't like you, to just let you lay there and die rather than come to revive you if you need it.
That sounds a lot like what they attempted to do in The Thing. Badly, I might add.
Oh, in the game?
Yes.
Yeah. I don't know if it really has much to do with anything in this game either, but it is an interesting concept. I don't know. I'm not at the end of the game yet, so I don't know if it has any bearing on the ending or anything. But
I think The Thing innovated that. That's probably why no one else tried it, didn't they?
No, but I highly, highly recommend Binary Domain. I really think it's one of the games that a lot of people overlooked, and you can get it now for probably around $20 new. But it's really fun. Let's see. The last thing I've been playing is I've been playing a demo on my PSP, or my, excuse me, not my PSP, my PlayStation Vita, called the Puddle, which is like a puzzle game where you use the gyro sensor in the system to guide this water through the level without losing too much of it. It's an interesting puzzle game. Honestly, I'm just looking for shit to play on my Vita because they haven't had anything come out for this thing yet.
You still bought it.
You bought that with your gift card. You wanted games stop.
Yeah, that's what I
Didn't you?
That's what I bought with my gift card.
They suckered you in.
I remember things.
What did I buy with it? I bought Mario Party 9, which ended up being a gift for my nieces for their birthday. I bought the Vita. I bought the memory card for it. I bought the screen protector for it. I bought the Ninja Gaiden game they had for it, which is, it's a good game. If you've ever played Ninja Gaiden, it's a good port. But I've played Ninja Gaiden now like 4 different times, so I'm kind of burned out on it.
They seem to always throw that one in as a launch title.
Yeah, like the PlayStation 3, I think they remade it for the PS3 pretty early on. I played that. That was okay.
Yeah.
I have Ninja Gaiden 2 on the Xbox, and that's pretty much the same game. I mean, they changed up a couple things, but it's essentially the same game. I'm just kind of burned out on the whole Ninja Gaiden series at the moment. And then Ninja Gaiden 3 came out, and that game was terrible.
Yeah, too much hand-holding in that game.
I rented it because I heard it was bad, but I wanted to try it anyway. And there's no blood in it. There's no... there's blood, but there's no, decapitating limbs or anything like in the second game. And then there's just... It's really straightforward, where, you just go from set piece to set piece, killing ninjas, and it just gets monotonous. I mean, say what you want about 1 or 2, at least it was changing up the locations and changing up the enemies frequently enough to where it didn't seem to get too boring. I think that's pretty much all I've been playing. Oh, and on the Wii I've also been playing Sonic Colors because I want to beat that game finally. Sonic Colors, I've had that for a long time and I got stuck on the Galaxy level or whatever. With the floating platforms that push you into space or something like that. And, I've just been trying really hard to get past that level so I can keep playing. But, I think that's everything I've been playing. Oh, and, one more game, though. Total Annihilation on PC. I downloaded that on Good Old Games. It's a really, really old RTS that I used to play when I was a kid, and that game is incredible.
Does it have all the extra units from the expansions?
Yeah, it has the expansions as well. The only thing I can't find is, I remember when I was a kid, you used to be able to go on their website and download new units. And I can't find those.
There's millions of units out there, isn't there?
Yeah, but
But you can only have a certain number in the game at any time.
Yeah, they give you the unit editor. So, I feel like going in and messing with making some ridiculously overpowered units.
My favourite unit in that was always the Vulcan, I believe it was called. A defense turret. It's like a really long-range Gatling kind of gun.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And it just takes all your energy as soon as it fires, because it fires so fast.
Yeah, I really liked the pop-up toaster. Or what I think they call it the toaster, but it's a little pop-up energy gun that sits in this covered hole and then pops up and shoots. Or the Big Bertha, which is really fun.
I always thought the Pee-wee was a cool unit as well.
Oh yeah, the Pee-wee's an awesome unit. I always make
That's why I always preferred playing as that side, to get the Pee-wee.
Yeah, the guns on that unit are really impressive, given the fact that he's a starting unit. But anyway, I've been having a lot of fun with that. Bought it off Good Old Games for just a couple of bucks, and it runs on Windows 7, no problem. And I was able to actually get online with it and play with some people. So, I'm terrible at it, but still, loads of fun. And I think that's about all I've been playing. I would bring up Heavy Rain, because I have been playing that, but I'm not anywhere near getting started. I'm still wandering around my house. So
You'll do that for a while at the beginning.
That's what I hear. There's a guy at work who won't stop talking about how great the game is, so I bought it, and I don't know. I don't know what he's thinking. I actually asked him when I caught him at work before. I said, well, when does the game start? Because at this point I'm just trying to find my son. And this has been going on for probably an hour.
I remember when I started that game, it took me an hour to find the dishes in the cabinet at the beginning. And I'm like, where are the dishes? It's the first time I've ever said to myself in a game, where are the dishes? I could not find them.
Yeah.
And then I let somebody die in that game, and I didn't realize that was it. They're dead. There's no more. Their story stops. So I was disappointed in myself.
I have that problem in real life sometimes.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's all I've been playing. So quite a bit, but not a lot. So, alright, well, anything else you guys want to talk about? Alright, then we're just going to call it a day.
I love
think
cheese.
That's a no. Yeah,
I love
cheese is pretty good.
Cheese.
Yeah.
You can't beat it. I mean, it goes with everything.
Cheddar Jack's just underrated.
I could go with some cheddar cheese and some Wensleydale cheese with some crackers right now.
Wensleydale.
Yes. Have you not heard of it?
I'm assuming it's a British thing.
Yes, it is.
I've heard of
It's
Wednesday.
It's the main cheese featured in all the Wallace and Gromit films.
Oh, okay. Well, I see.
Alright, well,
Well
I
then.
think we'll wrap this up here.
We'll wrap this up on white, crumbly cheeses.
Mmm. Yes.
I'd like to thank my two co-hosts, Jab and Josh Defeo.
I think you mean John Defeo.
John.
Yes, I will get this right eventually.
Great to have you,
Oh, well.
John.
Yeah, it's very nice you could join us and take a break from all your video editing and your amazing output for the site.
It's true. It's true.
You have to give us an update. When's the next episode coming?
I'm still working on it. The problem with episode 7 is I'm shooting it as 2 episodes. I'm shooting a no-nonsense episode where I actually, God forbid, review the content that I provide previously. And then I'm shooting a all-nonsense episode where nothing gets accomplished at all. And it turns into one giant slapstick routine with much falling down the stairs.
You mean like most of the other episodes?
Yes. So I figured I'd try both and see what happens.
Well, we look forward to
That's-
that, I'm sure.
I'm sure you do.
Alright, well, I guess we'll wrap this up here. And again, if you guys want to donate to oceanofbees.com, if you like this podcast or any of the content on the website, we are taking donations to keep the website up and running for the next couple of years. So please do feel free to donate. It's not necessary, but it is appreciated. But
Instead of buying that game on sale on Steam, donate to us.
yeah, your conscience will thank you.
Pay to shut us up.
Alright. As always, I'm your host, Marauder, with my hosts, Jab and Josh Defeo, and we'll catch you guys on the next bonus stage.